advantage. We are recording. Yes, and anyway, to really take advantage of the resources that are available, because they are numerous. And so we are just wanting to put the information out there so that we can share and make sure that more families are signed up. So if you have questions along the way, please put them in the chat. Remember, I said to keep that chat box open because we're going to be talking a lot through the chat. But please put them in the chat or remember them for later. Okay, write them down however you want to do that. We will address all questions at the end of the presentation. And those that we don't have the specific answers to, we will make sure that we connect you with those who can answer your questions. So please ask all of your questions. Also at the end, we ask that you answer a few quick questions about this presentation. So I'll put a survey link in the chat at the end of the presentation. Again, I want to thank you so much for joining us. If you have not done so already, please put your name and your affiliation or your organization in the chat. Keep that chat box open because we're going to be talking a lot through the chat. Ask your questions in the chat or hold them for after the presentation. And now my colleague Meg with the United Way of Western Connecticut is going to come with some very good information on SNAP.
Thank you so much, Yolande, for that introduction, and thank you all for coming today. So I am, as Yolande said, we are not the experts here on SNAP, but we have developed this presentation over the past few months through our partnership with the organization End Hunger Connecticut. That is a really wonderful organization that does a lot of great work in the state. And they've been really helpful in sharing information with us about SNAP. So as she said, if there are any questions that come up that we're unable to address, we will relay them to them because they are the real experts here. And we will follow up with everybody afterwards with not only answers to any outstanding questions, but also with these slides, with our supplemental information packet that has all of the information we cover in this presentation and more. So to get started, the basics of SNAP. SNAP is a federal nutrition program, as many of you probably know, that provides eligible households with a monthly benefit that those households can use to buy food at participating grocery stores, which farmers markets and any other places that accept EBT cards. Until I think October 1st, 2008, SNAP benefits were known as food stamps, and many people do still refer to SNAP benefits as food stamps, but we really encourage using the term SNAP due to lingering stigma that's associated with the term food stamps. SNAP eligibility is based on the number of people in a household, as well as the annual household income and certain other eligibility factors, which we'll get to in a few slides. And it's funded in the US by the United States Department of Agriculture, or USDA. And in Connecticut is provided by the Connecticut Department of Social Services, or DSS. So DSS is the entity that determines ultimate eligibility for SNAP in Connecticut, but it doesn't control any of the rules and regulations around SNAP that are determined at the federal level. And so funding for SNAP is provided to the state from the federal government. EBT cards are the method by which SNAP benefits are distributed. They're deposited monthly into an electronic benefits transfer, or EBT account, and they can be accessed via an EBT card, which works very similarly to a debit card. And you may notice that the EBT card and Connecticut state medical cards look almost identical, which trips people up. They are not the same. A person can receive an EBT card with SNAP benefits on it, even if they already have a medical card. So even though they look very, very similar, they're completely separate cards. But one way to differentiate the two cards is that there's a Quest logo on the back of the SNAP or EBT card. And only approved retailers can accept EBT cards, but they are required by law to display a sign in the window if they accept SNAP, like you see here in this picture. So SNAP benefits can be used to purchase a lot of different types of foods, things like fruits and vegetables, grains and rice, dairy products, breads and cereal. I think that's what this picture here is meant to represent. Snack items like chips and sodas, things like that. Any uncooked meat items, beef, poultry, fish, etc. Non-alcoholic beverages like the soda here, baby formula, and even, oh, I think that picture is supposed to be seed packets. SNAP can even be used to buy seed packets for people to grow their own food. So for the most part, SNAP benefits can be used only in grocery stores, farmers markets, etc. But you could actually use your SNAP benefits at a place like Home Depot to buy seed packets. It cannot be used to purchase toilet paper, paper towels, or other paper products. Any store-cooked foods like rotisserie chickens or any of the items you might find in a store's hot bar, which personally I think is kind of an odd rule. It can't be used to buy any soaps or cleaning products or laundry detergents, vitamins or medications, any alcoholic beverages or cigarettes. And we do have a note here that says that SNAP benefits do accumulate from month to month. So if a household doesn't use their SNAP benefits in a given month, they roll over to the next month, but they don't roll over from year to year. So households need to make sure to use all outstanding SNAP benefits by December 31st, or they lose their benefits for that year. But another important note is that if a household hasn't used their benefits in 9 months, DSS may become concerned that that household no longer needs them or maybe has moved, and so it's possible that DSS may expunge that household's account. So SNAP benefits can be used to purchase food at a lot of different retailers, including this list. I won't read this entire list, but this is just a selection of many of the stores that accept EBT cards in Connecticut. All of these stores too that are underlined and in blue font can also use your EBT cards at those stores for online ordering. So when you receive the follow-up materials from this presentation, we'll have a packet that will have the same list, and all of those underlined store names will be clickable links that will direct you to those stores' websites and their online ordering platforms. And this is not by any means a comprehensive list. There are many more stores that accept SNAP, including smaller local grocery stores that vary community to community, farms and farmers markets, and more. So there's a site listed here through data.ct.gov where you can view a more extensive list or look for, or you can also find stores that accept SNAP by simply looking for that sign that I showed earlier in the store window. So the income standards for SNAP are based on the federal poverty level, or FPL, which varies by household size. Now, most states use 130% of the federal poverty level as the qualification threshold for SNAP. And for a while, Connecticut was using 185% of the FPL, but as of October 1st of 2022, that threshold was increased again in Connecticut to 200% of the federal poverty level. So this is higher than it is in many other states, and that's a reflection of the fact that the cost of living in Connecticut is higher than it is in many other states. And the Department of Social Services in Connecticut actually estimated that that increase in October made an additional 45,000 households eligible for SNAP who had not previously been eligible for SNAP. So that's a huge increase in eligible households. So we've been trying to promote that news through our community partners, and we actually have a flyer that will include in our follow-up email after this presentation that you can share with your networks that announces this increase in eligibility. So we're trying to get the word out to families that they may not have qualified for SNAP previously, but they may qualify now. So this chart just shows the limits by household size for both net income and gross income. So gross income is income before payroll deductions like taxes, health insurance, retirement plans, whereas net income includes the take-home wages after the payroll deductions. In other words, what actually shows up in your bank account. And it's also important to note that these, in addition to the increase in the threshold under which a household qualifies for SNAP, these maximum possible SNAP benefits also increase. in October. So these are just the maximum number, so that may vary from household to household, depending on different factors, but that represents an increase as well. So a SNAP household is a term that consists of people who buy and prepare food together, regardless of whether or not they are related. And so this can include older adults, families and children, individuals, those with a disability, and people in certain relationships must be included in the same quote unquote household, even if they do not actually live together in the same house, including married couples. So if a couple is married but maybe separated and living separately, they still have to count under the same SNAP household because of that relationship. Same with parents and any children under age 22. So they all have to be considered in the same SNAP household. Now it's important to know that you can own a home, a car, or have a retirement or savings account and still be eligible for SNAP, but each individual situation is different. So DSS will determine whether an asset limit test is required on a case-by-case basis. The DSS website states that there is no asset limit except for households whose gross income is more than 200% of the federal poverty level. So for those households, total assets, including cash, savings, accounts, stocks, and bonds, cannot be more than $4,250. They don't include the home the client lives in as an asset, nor do they put I apologize, I don't know how to pronounce this word, a lien on the home. Somebody else can correct me later, I'm sure. They also do not count vehicles or retirement accounts, such as IRAs. Now, this is an area that we do get a lot of questions on when we're talking about SNAP around citizenship, status and eligibility for SNAP. So an immigrant who's had a valid green card for at least 5 years can apply for SNAP. Non-citizens or undocumented people are not eligible for SNAP, but citizen children may be eligible. So if a child is a citizen, but their parents are not, that child is eligible for SNAP, and therefore that household can receive SNAP. So in this situation, the application is filed in the parent's name, but the child's social security number will be used. But unfortunately, the household size will be only the number of US citizens, but the household income is counted for all household members. So this means, for example, that if one child is a citizen, but both parents work and have an income, the household income for both of the parents will still have to fall under the threshold for a household of one, because that one child is being counted as the household. Now, it is incredibly important to note that DSS is not a reporting agency and it does not share any information on immigration status with the federal government, and that also SNAP is no longer considered a public charge. So in 2018, President Trump moved many programs into the public charge rule, including SNAP, and President Biden immediately reversed this rule upon taking office in 2021, but this left a chilling, what many people call a chilling effect, that was left behind by the public charge rule, and that continues to be a barrier to eligible legal immigrants. We can't promise that SNAP won't ever be considered a public charge again, but it isn't now. And we would encourage people to apply now, since it does not affect public charge for the foreseeable future. And this is a topic that we get a lot of questions on, and is understandably something that causes fear and concern for a lot of people. So this is important. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. But it's an important myth and misconception about SNAP that it is still a public charge. And I will get into that more in the following slide, which is about common myths and misconceptions around SNAP. So a big misconception is that applying SNAP will take food away from others who need it more, when in reality, everyone who is eligible for SNAP and enrolls in the program will receive assistance. We've also heard that some people say that, well, SNAP is not worth applying for because it only offers $20 a month in benefits. But in fact, the average SNAP benefit per person per month in Connecticut is $176. We also hear that people experiencing homelessness cannot apply for SNAP when in fact they can. And there are different ways to handle this type of application. A shelter address or a friend's address can be used in the application for the purpose of mailing documents. Alternatively, an applicant could just list homeless under the address portion of the application and a zip code, and they'd be able then to pick up the documents at the local DSS office. So if, say, one of you works with a client who's homeless, End Hunger Connecticut can work with you to list your organization as the preparer of the application so that you would also be notified directly of any documents in the mail. Another misconception is that using SNAP in a store is difficult and will easily identify someone as a quote unquote food stamp recipient, when in fact those EBT cards, like we saw earlier, they work the same way as a debit card, and it's just as easy as swiping a debit card in the store. SNAP is also not just for families with children, can be open to households of any composition and size. And also another thing we hear sometimes is that people who receive SNAP don't work and are taking taxpayer dollars, but 80% of SNAP households are employed and SNAP is federally funded, and a large percentage of those households who are maybe not employed are not employed for reasons like disability. And also another misconception is that SNAP benefits need to be paid back when in fact they do not. So I mentioned earlier End Hunger Connecticut as being one of our key partners in this initiative and in helping us to put together this training. And End Hunger Connecticut has a lot of really great resources around SNAP. One of them is this pre-screener here. This link or this QR code will take you to a site on their website that can help you determine potential eligibility. And a client can also call the number listed under the call center as well to be screened using the same questions, or they can check, again, they can check online using this pre-screener this way. It is quick. It takes maybe about 5 minutes, and it will tell you, based on End Hunger Connecticut's knowledge of eligibility rules, whether they think you will likely be accepted or likely not eligible. Now, this call center is a really wonderful resource. This number is a toll-free confidential hotline that is staffed daily by Connecticut SNAP experts. Most of these call center representatives are bilingual in English and in Spanish, and they can help assist anybody calling this hotline with the applications themselves. So they can actually sit with a client on the phone and walk through the entire application process and collect that information. And they have a direct, secure portal with DSS where End Hunger can actually submit the application on that client's behalf. And they can also help with other paperwork involved in the SNAP process, like periodic report forms and redeterminations. They can help with the DSS My Account, which is the online portal for SNAP benefits. They can even help if somebody, say, lost their password for their My Account and can't get in. End Hunger can actually help the person reset that password, which is really helpful. They can also help with hearing requests, which I'll talk about in a few slides. Any document submission related to SNAP, they have safe, secure methods of collecting documents from the people calling the hotline and then submitting them to where they need to go, and just general inquiries about SNAP. So these people talk SNAP 24/7. And they're very knowledgeable about the program, and specifically for the program in Connecticut, since they're a Connecticut-based organization. And that hotline is open Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And and Saturday and Sunday from 9 to 5. And the 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. time slot on weekdays are specific hours designated for older adults. And people can either call the number directly and maybe set up a time slot to talk again later, or they can email, and I'll put this email will be in the notes, snap@endhungerct.org, and just by emailing that address, they can set up a time slot, an appointment to talk with one of the SNAP call center representatives. And then End Hunger also has some outreach materials, which are really helpful to people like you at our partner organizations. So you can print out outreach materials or view. They have a whole SNAP Outreach in Schools toolkit that you can download and see a bunch of associated resources. Or you can even add a button to your organization's website that looks like this box right here. And there are directions on how to do that on the website. And there are just other resources for helping to promote SNAP. So you can visit this address right here and see all of the wonderful resources that they have. So I talked a little bit about the call center, but the way the application assistance process works with End Hunger is the first thing the call center associate will do is pre-screen for eligibility, so that then if the associate determines that the client may be eligible for SNAP, then that associate can complete the application with the client over the phone, which usually takes about 20 to 40 minutes. But it is important to note that DSS makes the ultimate determination on whether a household is eligible or not. So End Hunger can do their very best to say, I think based on this information, you are likely eligible or maybe likely not eligible, but DSS does have that final say. If they determine they are likely eligible, they can submit that application directly to DSS, as I mentioned, through a secure portal. And then the client can send all of their required information to that call center associate who will submit that directly to DSS. And that information includes identification, like a photo ID, information about the household's income, which can include wages, Social Security, SSI, unemployment, child support, disability. And then End Hunger Connecticut has several secure, accessible methods for submitting documentation from the client to End Hunger, including email, fax, regular mail, and even texts. The End Hunger call center associates have secure cell phones that can receive texts with those documents. And then after that, DSS will receive the client's application and take it from there. But the End Hunger Connecticut associates work with the client all the way through that process, and they make every effort to submit accurate and complete applications. So after they've submitted it to DSS, DSS will first follow up with the client for a phone interview. And it is important to note here that if the applicant misses the phone call, the applicant is responsible for rescheduling. And if they don't have a phone, they'll receive a letter in the mail to follow up with DSS to set up that interview. After that interview, DSS will make their determination. For expedited applications, which is what they consider any applicants with extremely low or no income, that decision is made within 7 days. And for non-expedited applications, any other applicants, the applications may take up to 30 days to be processed. But if that processing time is really long, the benefits will be retroactive once they're approved. So if a person applies on the 1st of the month, doesn't hear back till the 30th of the month, but are approved, they will receive what they would have received for that month if they had gotten the benefits right on the first day of the month. Oh, I had one more note for that page. If the application is approved, the approved applicants should still respond to any correspondence from DSS. So frequently check their mail, their My Account, that's the online portal, and their email to see if there are any upcoming action items. If they don't have an online My Account, they should create that account for easy access to anything SNAP benefit related. And End Hunger Connecticut can help clients set this up. So if they call the portal, End Hunger will make sure they have an account on that site if that's something they're interested in and able to access. And then also stay in touch with End Hunger Connecticut, who can make sure that the clients do stay on track with submitting all of those required documents. Like I said earlier, recovering a forgotten password, and they can also answer any questions that arise at any point in that process. And if that application is denied, we say don't panic. The application may have had incomplete information or missing documentation, which again, End Hunger tries everything in their power to submit complete and accurate applications, but it's possible something may have gotten missed. And if an applicant believes that they are eligible and were told that they didn't qualify, they can complete a hearing request form, and that form is included in the denial letter, so they can submit a hearing request to make their case for why they think they should have been eligible. And in both these situations, End Hunger Connecticut is, again, a great resource and can help clients with both of those situations. Okay, now on to the next slide. So a couple special, maybe not special wasn't the right word, a couple specific SNAP programs that you may have heard thrown around the past couple years, especially. The first and one of the big ones is during the COVID-19 pandemic, many households in Connecticut were receiving additional emergency allotments. This would have been an additional benefit that was deposited in the account so about halfway through the month, maybe around the 15th. That for many households was maybe about $90 in additional funding on top of what they would have received at the beginning of every month. But in early 2023, Connecticut ended the public health emergency declaration, which means that after the February emergency allotments were distributed, households stopped receiving these additional emergency allotments in the middle of the month. So we have a website from ct.gov that has more information about the ending of these emergency allotments that we'll put in the notes afterwards. Yolanda, I see you.
Yeah, Sherry had a question, and I wonder if that is part of why some of your seniors saw a decrease, because that emergency allotment ended, and so a lot of people had the decrease.
That's a good point. And we have heard, I mean, we work with many food providers in the Stamford area and in the Danbury area, and we've heard from these providers that they've seen an uptick in families coming to receive food after these benefits ended. So they have become very helpful to many households, and they have unfortunately ended. The one nice trade-off is, yes, those allotments ended, but the SEBT, so I'll skip over PEBT for a second and come back to that. SEBT refers to a benefit, stands for summer EBT, and that was a benefit that children were eligible to receive in the summer to make up the difference for school meals while school was on break. And as part of the removal of emergency allotments, funding went instead to make SEBT permanent. So that is now a permanent program in Connecticut. So families of children who are receiving SNAP will receive extra SNAP benefits in the summer. And that is in addition, of course, to most, if not all, school districts have meals available in the summer for students to pick up. And actually, one thing that also was recently changed in Connecticut was that before the pandemic, if families wanted to receive summer meals for their students, they had to come in and sit down and eat the meal in the school cafeteria and participate in congregate meals. But during the COVID pandemic, meals became grab and go. So a family could just stop by, grab the meals that they need and leave, and they didn't need to sit and eat them on site. And those grab and go summer meals are also now a permanent option. So families will now always have the option to just come and pick up the meals and leave. So back now to PEBT, that was a program that, again, that stood for pandemic EBT, and that was a benefit that children participating in remote learning due to COVID were receiving as a supplement when schools were all remote in the beginning of 2020. So that was a program that existed briefly that no longer is an existing program, but you still might hear about that. And then also CT Fresh Match. Yolanda, do you have something else to add?
Yes, we have a question real quick about this. Someone asked, Yanira, I hope I'm saying it right. If I'm not, please correct me. But if you did not use those benefits, do you lose them? Do you know that answer?
The benefits specifically,
or the summer?
The summer benefit?
The summer, yes.
That's a good question. We can make a note to follow up with End Hunger to see if they know about that. But my guess would be that it would follow the rules of typical SNAP benefits, that even if you don't use it within that month, they roll over and maybe wouldn't, but I don't know if because it's a summer program, they would seem silly for them to end at the end of the summer abruptly, but I don't know. We will check on that and let you all
Okay.
know. Yeah.
So we'll follow up with you on
Good
that.
question. CT Fresh Match is a program that's run by End Hunger Connecticut in the state, and it allows SNAP members to double their SNAP benefits at participating farmers markets throughout Connecticut. So that means that you could spend and most farmers markets do accept EBT cards because we're entering a time where most places accept card purchases of things. So you can use your EBT card at a farmer's market, and if you were willing to spend $10 of your SNAP benefits, the farmer's market through this CT Fresh Match program will give you an extra $10 for free to spend at the market, which is a really great program. So there's a link that again will be in our notes to the End Hunger Connecticut website that has a farmer's market locator, so you can look for farmers markets near you that participate in that program. So now we're getting into our frequently asked questions, and this section has gotten longer with every presentation we've given, which is great. We get really good questions from the community, some of which Yolanda and I are able to answer, and some we have to bring back to our partner at End Hunger Connecticut. But and some of these too are questions that they gave to us as saying, well, these are the questions we get the most often. So one is, how do I check the balance on my EBT card? And luckily, there are a couple different ways of doing that. You can log into your My Account. There's a customer service number on the back of the EBT card, but also, and I think this is actually pretty cool, when you make a purchase using an EBT card, the remaining balance is displayed at the bottom of the receipt. So anytime you make a purchase with that EBT card, you can check your balance that way. Unemployment benefits do count as income when deciding if you're eligible for SNAP. If a household spends their benefits before the end of the month, you sort of just have to wait until the next month. There isn't any way to get your benefits more quickly. If you applied for SNAP and were, like I mentioned earlier, if you apply and are denied, but you feel like there's been a mistake, and you should have been approved, you can submit a hearing request, and Hunger is here as a resource for helping if that's the case. And also, there's an option to report a situation if you feel like you were discriminated against, or if you were provided incorrect information during the SNAP application process. You have the legal right to file a complaint with USDA. So there's a USDA site that you can visit for those complaints. So you can use your EBT card in other states, but if you are using your card in another state for more than 30 days, DSS might contact you to see if you've moved. And if you have moved, you will need a new EBT card because, again, the program varies slightly state by state. So you can't just roll your EBT card into your new state. You have to apply again with whatever entity in that state governs the SNAP process. Unfortunately, if you are moving to a state soon, you can't apply for SNAP until you officially live in the state. You have to wait until you're a resident. But luckily, again, like if you move to Connecticut on the 1st of the month and you apply on the 1st of the month, and if you have that longer processing time and you don't get approved until a month after you've moved to the state, those benefits again will be retroactive. And so you can receive the benefits that you were eligible for the second you became a resident of the state. If you ever have a question about why your benefits stopped or why you didn't get a higher amount, our recommendation from End Hunger Connecticut was to call the DSS Benefit Center. So they have a number too, and they can provide context in those situations. You don't have to apply for SNAP every year, but you do have to complete documentation that proves you're still eligible. So every 6 months, SNAP members have to submit a periodic review form, and once a year, a redetermination form. And unfortunately, these documents are really important. And if you miss the deadline for submitting these documents, your benefits will be terminated. You don't have to claim SNAP on your taxes. SNAP itself is not considered income. You can authorize up to 2 authorized shoppers to shop on your behalf. So someone else can do your grocery shopping for you. If say, a person receiving SNAP is homebound for some reason, another person can grocery shop using that person's EBT card on their behalf. And if you get a new job or your income increases while you're on SNAP, you are responsible for notifying DSS within 10 days, which I know is a tight window. And you can submit this verification online through your My Account, or again, as always, you can call the End Hunger Connecticut call center and one of their associates can help you with this process of submitting that new documentation. And one of the reasons why that, yep, Yolande?
No, I was just going to say that that may speak to some people saying that they have to pay back those benefits.
Yes, yes, and I almost mentioned that earlier on that slide, but I knew that was coming up here, that one thing that can happen is if you don't report higher income and DSS finds out later that you've been receiving SNAP, I don't know what that word was that I just said, SNAP benefits at a higher rate than you are eligible for, you are responsible for paying back that difference between the higher rate and your current eligible rate. So that's one of the reasons why it's really important to let DSS know if your income changes. And unfortunately, with SNAP, as with many other federal programs, they are very strict with their income thresholds, which is why many agencies refer to this as the benefits cliff, where a family could start earning just $10 more per month and all of a sudden be ineligible for SNAP at all, which is unfortunate, but that's the way that it works. But they're very rigid with those thresholds. Now, one question that has come up since we've started doing these trainings is, well, what if I get paid in cash or under the table or in some other non-traditional method? If that's the case, you can write a letter declaring your income and have your employer sign it. Now, this was another question that we received a couple months ago was, well, what if I'm undocumented and my employer doesn't want to sign off on my income? If that's the case, this is the answer we got from End Hunger Connecticut. You can still write that letter you can write a letter to self-declare your income without having it signed by an employer. And you can start a statement with something along the lines of, after several requests or attempts to obtain the information and not receiving cooperation, I am self-declaring my income as the following, and then include all of the information that you can, like hours worked per week, salary, etc. And this letter is not required to be notarized, but DSS seems to sometimes prefer that it is, but it's definitely not necessary. But again, yes, you can write a letter to self-declare your income and explain all of the information that you can about your situation. Now, this is just a brief sample of some additional benefits that are available for SNAP households, including discounts on internet through the Affordable Connectivity Program, automatic eligibility for free or reduced price meals for any students who are enrolled in public schools, although a great note is that for this school year currently, school meals are free for any public school student across the state of Connecticut due to an emergency certification that was passed by the state legislature a few months ago. So for anybody who's been following the story of school meals in Connecticut, their school meals were free for all students due to the COVID pandemic for several years, but those pandemic certifications started expiring throughout this school year. So some school districts in the state have been receiving free meals all school year. Some school districts were receiving free meals until November or December, and then all of a sudden they went back to their traditional free and reduced price and full price models. But as of, Yolanda, I'm not sure the date off the top of my head when it went back to free.
Yeah, I don't remember. Was it March?
That sounds right. Maybe early March.
Yeah.
We're back to free meals again through the end of the school year. And there is if you're interested in learning more about the statewide push to make that policy permanent, let us know. That is part of the reason Yolanda and I and our colleague Tita at United Way started this series of trainings at the beginning of the year. Was Husky and SNAP and these other programs are tied to school meals, and we can tell you all about that, or you can look for information about that on our website. But anyways, so this in a typical school year, any household that is enrolled in SNAP, that information actually is sent directly to the school district in a private and secure way. so that families who are receiving SNAP are automatically receiving free school meals as well. So more about that if you're interested later. SNAP households also automatically get waived fees for AP tests and college applications, reduced rates for summer camps, sports programs, and other after-school activities. There's also a great program in Connecticut called the SNAP Employment and Training Program that provides free classes and job skills training through a lot of different community colleges and other colleges and universities in the state. So we'll include a link to the portal with information about that in our notes. And also, just as another fun little perk, a 50% off regular price Amazon Prime membership. And there are many other benefits like this available for free and reduced rates for things for SNAP members. Oh, and actually, I forgot I had this slide also. Including in Connecticut, you can get free or reduced price admission to a number of museums and other things like the Maritime Aquarium in Norwalk. And all these other fun kids museums, art museums, etc., free or reduced rates for admission to those places. So that brings us to the end of our presentation. I will skip past this slide really quickly just to put this slide up here with our contact information, both for us with United Way and Cradle to Career, bunch of information on End Hunger Connecticut, including this QR code that will take you directly to their website that has a lot of the resources we talked about, and also some direct links to the Department of Social Services. And again, we are grateful to End Hunger Connecticut for their support in putting this together. And this, did I put that link on here? Can't see my, oh yes, there it is. I can only see half of my screen, so I missed this over here. But this presentation and training have been part of our Stanford Food for Thought campaign, which is a joint effort between Cradle to Career and United Way of Western Connecticut to promote SNAP and Husky enrollment in the city of Stanford in order, as I was briefly explaining on the previous slide, in order to support free school meals for Stanford students. So feel free to contact us in any of these ways, and please check out this website. You probably found your way to this website at some point because you registered for this training, which was on this website, but keep this page bookmarked because we will put future trainings, including a training we are hosting on May 11th on Husky, and that training will be hosted entirely in Spanish. Similarly, we have an entire training on SNAP, this training, but entirely in Spanish on the 26th of April. Both of those links to register, actually the Husky one is not up yet, but it will be shortly. And the link to register for the Spanish SNAP training is on this website. So with that, I will stop sharing my screen and we will open this up to questions.
And additionally, you can follow us on any of our many social media channels, and they will be able to promote a lot of our Food for Thought campaign initiatives. So if you want to stay up to date, go to our website and our social media channels. So we have some great questions. Thank you so much. If you have any more, you can definitely put them in the chat, or after we finish these few questions, then we can you can just unmute and ask your question. So Christopher asked a question right after Sherry asked about her senior citizens, that the question was, it's my understanding that low-income elders may be eligible for the Commodity Supplemental Food Program that delivers boxes of fresh food to their homes. I cannot find a way for elders to directly apply for this program. Any insight or contacts, especially for Eastern Connecticut where I am, would be helpful. Thanks. Do we have any information on the CSFP program?
Yeah, that's a great program. So that's a really good question. I believe that program is run by Connecticut Food Share, which is the largest food bank in the state. We were actually just talking about this yesterday with somebody from Food Share. I can reach out to that contact and see what the best way is for a person to sign up for that program directly, but I do think that the way is to go through Food Share.
Okay, so we will definitely follow up with that for you, Christopher, and give you whatever information we come up with.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Definitely. Had a question. It says, I have a client who has had her residency card for 3 years. So by this slide, and she was referring to the slide on immigration status, it says that she does not apply. She also has children, although not born in the US, they are citizens with Social Security numbers. Do the children qualify for SNAP?
Yes, if they are citizens and they have Social Security numbers, then yes, they have to qualify for SNAP.
Right. V, I hope that answered your question.
Yes, I actually just filled out a SNAP application last week for the first time for someone with residency card. So we're
I don't know if you were done with your sentence, but it looks like you went on mute.
Oh, sorry. No, I was just saying we just did it for the first time. Somebody that has had a residency card, and we were kind of nervous. And then I was nervous again seeing that slide. But if her kids count, I believe once the parents become citizens, the kids also as well. So I hope it goes through her.
Yes.
I did have another quick question, but I'll wait until the chat ones. I think Cynthia's.
Go for it.
Okay. Go ahead. You're off.
Okay, awesome. So just for background, I do care coordination with families. And I have one, it is a family of 5, I guess I'll say young adults. They're between the ages of 22 and 17, literally 22, 21, 20, 19. Yeah, all the way down. And mom has this thing where as soon as you're 18, you're an adult, go off into the world. No more support. They were receiving food stamps under mom, but she now makes too much money. So she's not getting any. And I believe in one of your slides, you said that, so they can't apply separately, right? It would have to be maybe the oldest for all of them.
Now, that's tricky, Yolanda, unless
Well, no, because Caitlin had a very similar question.
I'm seeing that right now. Yeah. So based on the information that we've heard about parents and children, it sounds like if a child is under 22, they have to be counted under their parent's name, which may be, Caitlin, I'm reading your question in the chat, but that may be why you've heard individuals say that they've been told they're not eligible for SNAP until they're 22, because until they're 22, they may be counted under their parent's name, which is difficult because, as you're saying, in situations where the children may be financially independent from their parents and their parent doesn't qualify for SNAP. So we can pass that question along to End Hunger Connecticut as well, but it seems that based on some of the information we've heard that no, maybe they wouldn't be eligible separately until they turn 22.
Yeah.
And just to follow up, so in my case, the 22-year-old could not pull in her younger siblings. It would have to be based on the parent, for sure.
That's a really good question. It would seem like it might have to be based on the parent. Okay. But again, we'll confirm that.
We can get clarification on that.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome, thank you. And this was a great presentation, thank you.
Great. And Caitlin also had a part 2 of hers. Wants to know if if an individual is receiving SSI, does that influence their eligibility? Is that counted as income?
I believe that was on the list of things that is counted as income. Yes.
Yes. All right.
Thank you.
And Cynthia comes in. Caitlin, I hope that answers your question.
It did. Thank you so much.
All right, wonderful. And then Cynthia has a question. She says, what if someone's spouse has passed away suddenly? Does paperwork need to be resubmitted to determine eligibility? And she asked that question during the time of the frequently asked questions. So we want to know about, does that affect their eligibility?
I am not sure. I'm sorry to and it is in that situation.
Yeah, I would say that it probably does, and that you would need to. We'll get clarification on that, but because household income might change, and the number of people in the household does change, then that would change possibly would change your eligibility status. or your income bracket. And so, but we will get clarification on that for you, Cynthia.
Thanks so much.
Do we have any other questions? Please open your mics.
I do, just one more, and I'm sorry if you covered this already. But where does cash assistance fit into this? I know you can apply at the same time for cashes, but to be honest, I really don't know what it is. My clients tell me they have cash assistance. I'm like, oh, that's great.
Right, that's possibly the TFAP program. I could not tell
Okay.
you off the top of my head what TFAP stands for. But I believe that is a benefit that is delivered in the form of cash assistance. I don't know how that affects your eligibility for SNAP.
Okay, thank you.
We can ask.
Mhm.
I'm noting all of this, okay? All right. I think Yanira, am I saying that right?
Yes, I have a question for Meg. Earlier, you mentioned something about Obama and Trump and the program going public or private. I didn't understand what that means and how is one better than the other for the SNAP recipient.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Yeah, oh yeah, continue.
No, that was my question.
Okay,
That's my question.
so the public charge rule is, it refer, and Yolanda, jump in if you have anything to add here, but the public charge rule, to my understanding, is that when a person is applying for citizenship, the citizenship application process will ask, have you received any of these types of assistance while you've been waiting to become a citizen? And if a program is considered a quote unquote public charge, then
Such as cash
that-
assistance.
such as, right, the cash assistance program, I think still is considered a public charge and is under that rule, then that negatively impacts your ability to apply for citizenship. And so under the previous administration, SNAP was put under the public charge rule, which from our perspective is not good, because that means that people are discouraged from receiving the SNAP benefits that they could greatly benefit from, because they don't want it to affect their ability to apply for citizenship. Under the current administration, SNAP is not a public charge, which is great, because that means that people who are in the process of applying for citizenship can receive SNAP benefits, and that will not negatively impact their ability to become a US citizen. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
And the reason we brought that up is because it was considered a public charge under the previous administration, it made a lot of people afraid of being a part of that program, and it's had what we refer to as a chilling effect, and people are still nervous about receiving the benefits that they could use, because they're afraid that, oh, well, I can't do that because then I won't be able to become a citizen. And it's not true anymore, but that the chilling effect lingers around SNAP. And that's why there is a lot of lingering misinformation and fear around SNAP. So yeah, so do encourage people to apply for SNAP, because
I have another quick question now that you mentioned the fear. So I worked in a manufacturing and human resources, and a lot of our employees were underpaid, honestly, for the area, and they would always decline our free, it would be like a matching 401k or our free life insurance, because they say, oh, when I die, I'm on SNAP benefits. When I die, my kids are not going to stay with, my 401k or my free life insurance, because SNAP is going to take it all, because so they're always declining like our free money, essentially, that we would give them for their 401k, or they would decline. They would not want to do it because they would be afraid that because they're on either you mentioned the cash assistance, TANF, and the SNAP, they would think that because you're on those benefits, you have to pay all of that back. Do you know any of that to be true?
I'm not sure.
but we can try and find the answer for you.
I wouldn't think any of those would affect things in that way, but I can see where those ideas would come from. Also, thank you for mentioning TANF. That was what I meant earlier when I said TFAB.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, but we can, and that's where a lot of that fear comes from the misconceptions, the myths that are out there. So that's why we were trying to clear up some of that. But even that could be something that we bring up in future presentations, because, you know, that even though there probably is not a correlation, it's out there.
Yeah, and the problem is the it's a factory. So then they all spread the same rumor to everybody who are on this same assistance, whether it be SNAP, TANF, or the health insurance through Husky, and they will decline everything.
Yeah.
Because they're afraid that the state is going to take it back anyway. So I'm not going to apply for free, 401k that the company is giving free money, or I'm not going to apply for the free and life insurance. They'll decline everything, and then we'll have a whole factory of people not utilizing this stuff because the rumor is that they're going to take it all back.
Yeah. So we'll clarify that.
Thank you.
Listen, before we get to Ilaria, I hope I'm saying it right, please correct me. Please make sure that you take our survey before you drop off. I know it's 2:00, but we'll hang back for just a few more minutes. But if we can go to you next, and please make sure that you take our brief survey before you leave. Thank you so much. Okay, next question.
Yeah, thank you. I have a really quick question, I think.
Yeah.
So I work in outpatient nutrition, and my question is, I recently had a few times where I've had my patient being English speaking, teenager, and mom being Spanish speaking, and they're not enrolled in SNAP. What should I tell them in that moment? What's the best route for them to take? Because mom would need assistance calling.
I would say tell them to call the End
tell
Hunger
them to call.
Connecticut hotline.
Yeah.
Almost all of the staff members who man the hotline are bilingual in English and Spanish, so
Okay.
they can work through that whole process with in Spanish.
Perfect. So before even attempting any online application, just pick up the phone and call first.
That's what we often direct people to, because the application is available, and I'm assuming the application online is available in Spanish also, or at least able to be translated. But it's helpful to have a real person in live time assisting you with that process.
I agree. Okay, perfect. That's all I need to know.
And what In Hunger does is that they kind of follow you through the process. So it's not just where you click submit and then now, that's it, but they kind of, help you through. So yes, I would definitely go to In Hunger. And
if you are working frequently with patients and want to direct them to End Hunger, one other thing they have on their website is they have downloadable postcard sized brochures that you could pass out to people that are in English and in Spanish. They have the number in bold text and makes it very easy to pick up the phone and call that number and get started.
Perfect. I'll have a look. Thank you.
Any other questions? No? Okay, well, listen, we will send out our packet at the very soon, so that you will have the slideshow. You'll have some other notes, some other resources for you to use, because you reach out and touch these families on a regular basis. Thank you so much for spending part of your afternoon with us. It's a beautiful day, and we hope that you go out and enjoy some of this great weather outside. Thank you, Meg, so much for all of your work. If you need us, you have our information. We will talk with you soon. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you all. Bye.